Driveline R&D podcast, episode 85. A little bit different crew today. We had some travel conflicts, so Caravan's out, Anthony's out. We have Max Engelbrekt here as a fill-in co-host, and I'm Kyle Lindley, Pulse product manager, drinking a Keurig, I think Safeway brand coffee from the office and a water. So looking forward to it. Max?
Max Engelbrekt. I'm the product manager of Track, our athlete management system. I'm drinking a water out of a Hawaii mug. This is for Anthony, who is not quite yet in Hawaii, but probably will be in the next day.
Let's go. And then today we have Alex Harter, who I'll let him introduce himself, but spent this last season coaching at Middlebury and started at Driveline in what? Early
November
2021.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Late 2020. Wow.
Yeah, so COVID year.
Okay.
Yeah, drove across the country and everything. So, what's up, guys? I'm back here at Driveline. It's my second day back for the summer.
Yeah, got you on
back.
quick, dude.
Know,
Got you back and
glad
already
to
on
be
the
back
podcast.
and everything like that. It's been a lot of fun, but in terms of like my role, I kind of do like a catch-all of everything. I'm a throwing trainer this summer, and then I'm also doing sales stuff. I'll do support stuff on the software side with like Pulse and Track, which I've been doing quite a bit for the last year. So yeah, and then I'm drinking. Unfortunately, I have a high blood pressure, so I stay away from caffeine. So I'm the good old water today.
Dude, good for you, but also you not having caffeine is crazy to me, especially after ABCA. This guy was like the definition of grinding at ABCA this year in Chicago, just like staying up until 3 a.m., BSing with coaches and everything, having a good time, and then still making it to the booth by 8 a.m.
Yeah, but it's not like you don't drink like cocktail or like don't have drinks. We would get coffee and you would get us like a triple caramel macchiato like every day.
Yeah, that was like
And
the
then you
one
get,
week
like,
that
two.
like I just let myself go, and then after that, then I was like, all right, I need to scale this. No, I definitely caffeine had to be had for that week. For sure.
Nice, yeah.
That was-
And that's probably the best way to do it. Like only drink it when you really need a little bump, as opposed to most of us.
I will say the entire drive out here, not a single ounce of caffeine.
Wow. How many days do you do it in?
4, so 45 hours. Yeah.
Okay. Goddamn. That's a lot. Do you want to, I actually don't know much about your background getting you to Driveline.
Yes.
Do you want to just like give a rough background on your playing career, professional like jobs going into this, and then how you got intro to Driveline?
Absolutely. So originally from Northwest Ohio, Findlay, Ohio originally. Actually went to the University of Findlay, which is a D2 school in the Northwest as well. Plays in the Great Midwest Athletic Conference, pretty good baseball conference out there. I played there for 4 years. I was a starting pitcher. I would say mediocre at best. I kind of wish I would have came out the Driveline. It probably would have helped me a ton, but did not. And basically from there, was a huge follower of Driveline. And after I graduated, went into corporate America. So went to a Fortune 50 company in Marathon Petroleum, which was in my hometown. Worked there for a year and a half. Was a marketing and finance major, so I worked in their marketing department, did some analytics stuff for them.
Nice.
And then after that was kind of done, or while that was going on, I should say, my pitching coach actually ended up leaving my school that summer. So my head coach called me and asked me if I would be the volunteer pitching coach. So I basically was 22, taking on a full staff of guys that I actually knew and played with. So that was actually really interesting. But I learned a ton. I learned a lot in terms of what I didn't know, which was a ton. So COVID hit, which was actually pretty rough for me because I was super excited for the season and everything. And basically during that time, Driveline did the certification course where you got the 3 for, I don't know, it was like the bulk price or whatever.
Okay.
So me and my buddy went in, who's still the assistant at Findlay. We bought that. He got the hitting one. I got the 2 pitching ones. And I just learned a ton from those, and in terms of just like how much I was doing wrong. And from there, I got back in the fall, had a ton of fun training my guys, and I was just like, I kind of want to just coach baseball full time. I loved Marathon. I loved the people I worked with. My boss was awesome, everything, but just sitting behind a desk every day just wasn't me. So what I did was I applied for the business associate job. Talked to good old Gary, and interviewed Engelbrekt as well. and basically ended up getting the position. And what was more fun about it was I was using track free at the time. Still number one.
Oh, at
track.
Finley?
Yeah, still the number one track freemium user.
Let's go,
Never
dude. I
forget
didn't
that.
know that.
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
hilarious.
So that was a big thing for me, is they told me I would be able to work with track when I got out here, which I was super excited about. And obviously that's grown into something awesome for me. So in that time I came out here, and not that the rest is history, it's still being created, but I've been out here ever since, and I've enjoyed all of it. And that's obviously led me to pass like Middlebury, which has been awesome. So
Yeah, we'll get into that. With your transition from playing to coaching at Finley, Finley or Finlay? Finley.
Yep.
Okay. That was actually my high school nickname.
Was it really?
Yeah, people call me Finn still from home. But
Why?
I think it was from Lindley turned into Finley, and then like Jermichael Finley, and then shortened it to Finn. It like stuck.
Played for like the Packers.
I know. It's just I think it was a rhyming thing, honestly. But anyways, was there something about your like how you approach playing and training that your coach was like, or did you just have a good relationship with the coach, or were there specific things that he hit you up about for like why he chose you to come like take on the pitching spot there?
Yeah, so it was funny enough. My pitching coach, obviously, before he left that summer, he told me straight up that I should go into coaching, and I was just like, man, I'm like, I'm gonna go get a corporate job, make some money, do that type of thing, and didn't
Scoot that mic closer to you, bro.
didn't think like a little bit like twice about it, to be honest with you. I was just like, I'm just gonna go work corporate world, and then my head coach knew that I knew a lot that our old pitching coach had done, and he was really good, and knew that I could implement a lot of that stuff. And I'd always like kind of always been like a person to where I read, try to learn new stuff, try to figure out what I can do better. So I think that's kind of where it came from, is he trusted me enough that I knew the guys. I was local, so it was very easy, like a very easy hire in terms of like just bringing on very quickly. And obviously like couldn't pay me either. So like which was completely fine, but it was super easy that everything was just super convenient. And I think that's what was nice about it, is it ended up working out really well to where I got great experience, and I'm fortunate that he gave me an opportunity. But I think that's what it is. But the fact that he trusted a 22-year-old to take on a full pitching staff was like, not every day someone's doing that. So do I know the complete answer of why he trusted me? No.
Yeah.
But I'm glad he did. And I definitely wouldn't be here if he definitely didn't give me that opportunity.
Nice.
So
Nice. And then when you applied to Driveline for the business associate, was it on a specific path, or was it just like, because did you interview a lot of the business associates?
A couple. So we needed additional person to do a lot of like track sales, software sales type
So it
stuff.
was kind of specifically for.
And so we were hiring directly for a business associate that would spend like half their time on giving like sales and like support. So yeah, I think I interviewed Harter, Jackson, who we had like 3 people get hired. There might have been one other. Sorry if I forgot, but yeah, you were the only one that had really used the product a lot, and it was weird because you had used it like for like 100 hours or something like that.
yeah, I mean, I was sitting at work at that time and like looking at, because I mean, I'd work 7 to 4 every day and then go straight to the field for 3-4 hours after that. So I was looking at track every day, like, what are we doing? What's the programming? What should I do? Those type of things. So it kind of worked out that way.
Because for a lot of these, I was on my computer during the interview, and I'd be like, because one of the main things for a summer intern was like, okay, well, like, how quickly can you get started? And so I was like talking to everybody of like, okay, have you ever used this before? And everybody would be like, yeah. And then I'd look on there, I'd search our database, whatever, it'd be like 9 seconds or 0
like
minutes.
made a login.
It's like, huh. And then I talked to him. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, so it's pretty easy hire. And I mean, other people that have been hired to be business associates have good roles now. But yeah, you were kind of a unique case there for that specific.
Yeah.
And you got intro to track just from the foundations of pitching. Is that when you started?
So I actually like saw track, like I think even before that.
Okay. Shout out Driveline Marketing.
Yeah, seriously, I did. I saw it online and saw that this thing was going public. because I think it was 2019 is around when it first went public for everyone.
Yeah, November.
Because we were using it internally only.
Yes.
Well, we started selling it in 2018, and then we gave it away for free tier of usage in 2019, and then during COVID we had a time restriction initially, and then that time restriction went away, so you could start to use it for several months for free without just having to stop.
And that's basically like how I kind of like saw it. Was like I started seeing the announcements of like, hey, get on track, and what was nice was a lot of the programming that's used in foundation pitching, I mean, is in track.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very easy to like take those same principles of like what you're already learning and being now I can just program this guy. What was even better were my players like buying into it. The guys loved looking at the information. They loved being able to log in every day and see what they have going on, and then being able to see the data that comes with it. We didn't have like any technology or anything, but we would obviously have a radar gun, plug in data inputs, just like the velos for every day. Guys could see their average, their max, everything like that, and it helped me keep track of it very easily. Because I mean, I had like 24 guys on the staff, so like quite a few to keep track of and to program and things like that. And I wasn't able to show up till right as practice started because of the work. So it made my life a lot easier. It made their lives a lot more efficient because they would just show up to the field and get right to work, which made it really nice. So
Yeah, that makes sense.
You mentioned wanting to go into corporate America first, but then you coached like immediately. Did you actually think you didn't want to coach? You strike me as a total coach.
It was gonna be like the typical, I'm gonna like go work and have coaches like a hobby, like at my high school that I went to that I was planning on doing, and then just doing that, and then the kids grow up, and then maybe like go coach them a little bit or something like that. It wasn't really supposed. Like I really had no intentions of like going into like college coaching or being like
20-year plan.
yeah, that's like I mean that's what it was gonna like end up being. Is like it was never really supposed to be anything like super serious. And then at some point I just like it was literally during COVID. I remember sitting in my chair. I was like working remotely, and I'm just like I don't want to do this job. Like I miss coaching baseball and being on a baseball field way too much. And that's where it kind of just hit me that, hey, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fire.
Take the risk.
And then did you coach on the floor at all when you were first here? Or was it just with academy? Not just, but was it only with academy?
So it was mostly just academy. I mean, I would help on the floor, help with assessments, do that type of stuff. The biggest thing that I love about Driveline is that's why I took the business associate. Like maybe I wasn't qualified enough to get the pitching intern because it's super sought after. So basically the way I looked at it is like, I'm going to go be a part of the company and then use all these resources I have to basically teach myself, ask questions, go learn on my own type of thing, and which is what I did. So I did help a little bit when they needed, which was awesome. I love doing that type of stuff. And then on top of that, mostly it was just academy, which was a great like beginning step for me in terms of taking the principles I had learned in foundation pitching and the stuff I was continuing to learn to then take that into the academy and kind of battle test that and see the things I'm saying. Like if I can explain it to 11-year-old, I think I can do it for an 18 to 22.
Yeah,
it's
for sure.
It's one of those things where if you can do it in both ages, then you're probably doing something right there. So
did you got like the academy usage of track and the things that you were doing with the academy help with like your business side of things, like offering sales and support?
Yes. I would say that. I think right when I came in, what helped was like my experience that I was using at the college level. And then when I came in and saw it, like how it could be used at not only at the facility level at Driveline, but also the academy, like travel ball org level, that gives you, I mean, almost takes up the entire like what the baseball like world is like those three kind of areas right there, which are the majority of the people that I would talk to during sales calls or with any coaches or anything like that. That's what's like nice about it is you can kind of see what works, what doesn't work, how people can use it, because there isn't one way. And that's what's nice about track is that's what makes it so good is there's 100 different ways to do it, and I can see from out on the floor how we use it. And then different areas, how people can use it differently too. So it definitely helped a ton for sure.
Yeah. And that makes it's a really good piece of feedback for the product side of things with Pulse and Track, like having collecting feedback from customers that you're talking to, collecting feedback from your experience with youth athletes, and also the college experience that you had with it. What are the biggest things that changed between when you first used it at like with your free usage before you got here to like, I don't know, before you first left for Middlebury?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is just like how the ease of use from like a coaching standpoint. Like it's become 10 times easier. I mean, you can basically just program so many guys so much easier. You have the template builder, so you can basically just build out like a 6 to 8 to whatever 12-week program, and then just put that in for everyone if you need to. The athlete interface has changed a ton too, which has made it so much easier. Like my guys at Middlebury loved it. They thought it looked a lot easier. The first feedback, which I think just serves the entire purpose behind it, was like, oh, I didn't even know this thing existed or how I could find this, and now it's right there. So like the edge reports, which we had access to, like those guys didn't know how to find it, and all of a sudden it's like right on the front page, and they click on it and then go see any information they want to see from there. And that's what's made so much better is we're trying to make this better for the athletes and coaches, and the feedback that we took and got from them, we've basically put right into the product and making sure that like the ease of use continues to go down, because once these coaches and athletes like can make their lives 10 times easier, that's the whole point behind it. Like, and if we're actually doing that, then we're doing a pretty damn good job of that. So it's been nice.
And then like edge wasn't a thing then, right?
I think edge free was, I thought at that time when I was using it for free, but
it was the visualizations.
Yeah, I think so. So since I didn't have like any technology, I didn't really use that a ton. But like again, another great visualizing tool. Like if I had like the information in front of me. So like if I did have a couple of guys over like winter break that would go to like a facility, get some Rapsodo data. So then I can like talk about like, oh, like you're kind of cutting it, and like let's look at like what this potentially could do if you like would cut the ball a little bit less, like if you had to spin direction a little bit better than what you have right now, that type of stuff. So
hell yeah. And then which tools did you like use the most at Middlebury?
At Middlebury, for sure the pitch recommendations tool, the edge report, with Stuff Plus. I mean, that was, our guys like don't talk about anything other like in terms of like their pitch movements, things like that, other than Stuff Plus. Like, Stuff Plus is like telling us like how good they are, and comparing each other and trying to figure out like, oh, this pitch needs to be better because the Stuff Plus is not at the level I want it to be at, which is perfect. On top of that, I would say just the programming in general. I love the wellness questionnaire. I always have. That takes me back to the Finley days, where it's good to know, just like keeping an athlete honest, because as a coach, like I like you'll learn pretty quickly an athlete face to face is not as honest as what they would be maybe on their phone when they're filling out a questionnaire. So being able to have them fill out something daily where it's like, how much sleep did you get, which is all like it's all subjective, so they can just like fill it out what they think, or if they're weighing themselves for the day, they can keep track of their weight over time. How are they feeling? Is their arm sore? How about your body? Are you sore from a lift? Maybe those type of things. So like, let's just say randomly we have a day where he's throwing a bullpen and didn't get any sleep, doesn't feel good, body feels horrible. Then it's like, maybe we just push it back a day and see if you can get a little bit more recovery before we go try to push something. So good information to know.
That makes sense too. To me, it seems like breaking it down into more like specific questions, like how much did you sleep? Like how does like your body feel? How's your like arm soreness, whatever, and like trying to keep it from how do you feel today, or like are you ready? Because like those are much more ambiguous questions that are probably tougher to answer, especially in person.
And especially at our school where you have like 4 tests in 1 week and the academics are just like definitely really high. So you're counting in other stress that like you don't see. And that's the thing is like there's a lot of things that I just don't see and can't exactly comprehend because like I'm not in the classroom, I'm not with them outside of the field or things like that. So there could be other things going on that we just don't know, and not that they have to like expand upon that in the sheet, but they can at least say like, hey, on a scale of 1 to 5, how stressed are you? And if they put like a 4, like super stressed, it's like, okay, well I can have a conversation like, hey man, like not that like are you okay, it's like, hey, do you want to maybe like push this back like a day just to like give yourself a little bit of time? Maybe you have like a couple tests today or something like that. And that it just helps the athlete more. Because in the end of the day, that's the whole idea is you're trying to help the athlete. And doing that when like a lot's going on in their lives, which is completely normal, it's okay to like push something back a day or make an adjustment on the fly. Like that's going to have to happen. So
yeah, especially early on.
Yep.
As well. Nice. Were there any like, I want to talk about your pulse usage a little bit because I don't think anybody in the country used pulse more like in a more like robust, complete way than you did. But kind of wanted to first hear for like your first time going, I guess this position is pretty similar to what you were in charge of at Findlay. Just like a different school. But like, are there any things that you learned or that like kind of wowed you that you weren't expecting when you went from here, coaching academy, and with your experience from Findlay to going to Middlebury?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, and I think I knew this at Findlay, sometimes you just kind of forget when you're away from it a little bit, is when you're in a facility or when you're in an academy, like you have a little bit more control because you're kind of in a controlled environment. And I think that's what's so interesting about it. But when you get to like a brand new team in a brand new place that kind of already has like a culture and like everyone has a routine kind of set, it's like a little bit of like you can't throw everything at them. Like you can't just throw the kitchen at them and be like, we're doing this now. And that was kind of my approach. Was I had 18 guys. I'm not really trying to change a ton of their routines considering we're playing in 6 to 8 weeks. Like let's implement stuff that I think at the bare minimum needs to be done. So any like free throwing stuff that I think would be good, plus additional stuff that they want to do. And then just like basically just like looking in where Pulse came in play is like, what's the workload day by day? And that's the biggest thing I was worried about is like, how much workload are we getting in day by day? And making sure that like, we're not overdoing something. We're not underdoing something. We're like sure we're prepping these athletes for games for when we get to that time. And I think that was the toughest thing was, we like obviously I love the warm up and the post throwing that we do here, but sometimes like some of the athletes just weren't doing that yet, and that's things that like I had to pivot on. Is where a lot of them were doing plyos, but some guys were just like, hey, I'm not huge into plyos, like and that's okay. Like that's okay. That's not something that like I'm going to push on them. It's not my agenda. It's like they need to be ready as athletes. So if they have something they've been doing, and I'm gonna run with that until I think maybe there needs to be a change. And to be honest with you, there wasn't a ton of that went on. And that's what's nice about it is like you kind of like just need to teach the athletes how to like prep themselves and how to create a routine. And when they know that, they become super self-efficient and can become their own best coaches, which is ultimately like what I want, because I have 18 of them. I can't coach every single one of them 24/7. So when they can actually coach themselves and do things and make adjustments when they need to, that's when you're going to have like some really good pitchers and some athletes that are really going to do some cool things.
Can you remind me on the timeline? Because you didn't have like a regular first year, right? So we worked with Middlebury in some capacity with implementing their tools before you took the job, right? But that was like early fall.
Yes, that was October timeline. So second week of October we went out there.
We went out there in October?
Yes.
Okay, and then you took the job in what, like technically like January was when you started?
Like I think December-ish, January timeline somewhere in there. Like
so you
like
miss
I knew
the whole fall. You miss
yeah
the winter training, and then you show up and you have like 4 weeks until the season. Like, did you know everybody's name by then?
Yeah, no. I knew all the pitchers, position players. And they're probably going to give me some crap for this. I did not know everyone's name coming in.
Did you ever screw it up?
I think you just kind of go about the way of like, hey, what's up, man?
Yeah.
You just like, you don't call them their name for a little bit. And then you ask like.
There's no worse feeling than being like a freshman. And like,
I know.
You're like the 8th infielder and the, pitching coach calls you the wrong name.
Yeah.
It's like the worst.
Yeah. Sometimes you just got to fake it till you make it is basically at that point. Is just making sure. So yeah, that definitely happened. Like it was a quick timeline. And what was even more unique is our conference, is super academic. So like really they don't let us practice till February 7th was our first team practice. So I couldn't work with the guys. I could give them programming to follow along. It was more captain practices. So we have a J term where basically they have like a one class in January. They'd go every day, kind of just take a class for a credit. And so everyone's on campus, but we cannot work with them. And that's just how our conference makes the rules. So the whole month of January was without me. And then I was there for, I think, the second or third week of January, and then February 7th. So I had to wait another 2-3 weeks. So first game was the middle or like the first or second week of March. So I had like 5-6 weeks, 5 weeks probably to get ready.
So what was that like? What did you don't have very much time. So like, how did you, I mean, like, you have to learn the conference, you have to learn, you have to get scouting reports in some capacity, right? You have to also learn who the best pitchers are, and then develop some sort of rapport. I mean, did you call pitches? Like how did you align your time from when you started?
So the biggest thing I made sure of is when I got there is like, we need to get everyone's ready to get on the mound by the time we start practice. That's number one thing. Is like, we need to get on the mound.
Mostly physically, or
yes,
like everything?
Like probably everything, to be honest with you. Just like, we need to get on the mound. I'm going to do like a very short pitch design tune up in terms of, you throw a 2-seam and 4-seam fastball, which one's better? Let's do that. Let's throw that. Sliders,
like the easy things, like the easy
quick
things.
Changes. It's like, okay, you throw a slider. Can we maybe try to get a little bit of side of it? Does that feel okay? Cool. We're gonna throw with that. We're gonna go with that. Wasn't making like a ton of like grip changes. Wasn't making a ton of like, we're gonna throw a new pitch type thing. Just because there wasn't time for it. We gotta kind of go with the skills that they have at this point and go with it that way. And that's the way I went about it. So basically, we got to that first week of February. Did bullpens for roughly, we had 3 bullpen sessions, and then we went into live babies. And that's basically how it is. And what was even more unique is 85% of the roster did not play the year before because conference decided, because of COVID reasons, to originally cancel but then allow a season. But we only played, and I can probably get corrected on this, but it's probably, I think it was somewhere between 8 to 12 total college baseball games with a roster of 14, I believe. So, and
14 players total.
Yes. So, and that's what I'm saying. Like 85% of the roster took the semester off. So a lot, like there was 4 or 5 guys that were here training during that spring of 2021.
That's like a 12-year team.
It was
everybody pitches.
They called it, our head coach Mike Leonard called it the COVID Panthers, and he said it's probably been the most unique coaching year he's ever had, and it was really interesting. It was definitely tough, but like I think overall, like we had some of the guys that like started this year that played that year. I think it helped them to get that college experience, even though they kind of got thrown into a fire. Still good. But basically, so like we were going into like this year with 85% of our roster had not played a single baseball game since before COVID, and that's not that they hadn't played summer ball, but I'm saying like a college game in the Northeast in 35-40 degree weather, that type of thing, and with a little bit more on the line sometimes, but just because like that's just how the college atmosphere is, and that's what was wild about it is sometimes you're running in there and it feels like you just have like you're running out a lot of freshmen because there's just like the experience there wasn't a ton, and that's for me definitely like pushed my knowledge as a coach and pushed me as a coach to like definitely continue to adjust on the fly and learn these guys, because one, I had to learn them in general, didn't know any of them. But 2, also figure out what their strengths are and play to those as well as we can. Was I perfect at it? By no means was I at all. Yep. However, it was still like really interesting because like you were saying, like trying to find the best pitchers, like we didn't know it entirely going
right.
into
If you have a new team, you don't even know.
Yes.
I mean, were you worried about like buy-in at all? Was there ever any issues?
There definitely was a little bit. But I think that's what's so great about Coach Leonard, and part of the reason why I wanted to go coach at Middlebury is because of him. He does such a great job of like instilling like trust into the coaching staff, but also making sure that we can trust them as well. So it's like a two-way street. He does a really good job of that, of just building this culture where like we're all there for each other and we're all fighting for each other. So like it was the same thing when I got there, and that was like one of my big things. I wanted to make sure that like I'm an open door. Like, come talk to me whenever you want. If you have questions, you're going to question something, or you're not sure on something that we're trying to do, or something like that. And I had a ton of these conversations. I'm okay with that. because like those conversations have to happen if this is going to like go anywhere. And the guys were great about that. Is like they were very open to coming and asking questions and questioning me on if like, coach, is this really the best thing to do? And was I right all the time? No. And you know what? I don't know that if they don't come and ask those questions. So you are right that like it is tough like in terms of the buy-in, but the guys were awesome in terms of just like asking the right questions, learning, being open to it, which is the number one thing. And that's why I think we had the year that we had, was because those guys just kind of ran with what they had and did everything they could to play the best baseball that they could. And it was really good baseball.
Yeah, talk about the results a little bit, because I think it's super impressive given all the circumstances alone. Like, even if you were to take away a new pitching coach coming in with new tools, like, it's still kind of odds are kind of against you and the players to succeed. Yeah. So, how did the season end up? Yeah, and like down the stretch, how was it?
It was arguably the best season in Middlebury history. So broke school record and so many things. I'll name a couple. So wins, 31. Stolen bases, which was a ridiculous number. We had like 108 something in like 40 something games. Led the nation, so that was sick. Wow. Our hitting was unreal. Broke home runs, hits, runs, RBIs. I mean, the list keeps going on and on. Pitching wise, I mean, broke the strikeout record. We won the conference. Shout out Alex Rich for what you did in that last game. That was unreal. And then we had Player of the Year, which was Alex Rich. We had Pitcher of the Year, George Goldstein. Multiple first team, second team, third team. Had all region, all the way up and down. And then John Collins ended up getting All-American honors, I think this past week, which was awesome. So, I mean, we're talking one of the best seasons, and it was so much fun to be a part of too. I like I always say, like these guys are the ones that did it. I mean, they really did. They came out here every day and just did things on the field that I've just never seen done before, both on the hitting and pitching side, and it was unreal. And what's even more fun and probably even more scary is we lost one guy, and we're returning everyone else. So
let's go.
It's gonna be an interesting year running it back next year. So. It was a lot of fun though.
So can you remind me how? Because I remember following this initially, but how did it start? Like, how did the season start?
Well, we started out really high. We started out 2-0, and then we went
we're going undefeated.
Then we went to Florida, and it was definitely like a rough patch. And this is where it was like our spring training. We have a ton of young guys, throwing guys all over in positions, throwing a different batting order lineup together every single game, not knowing what's going on and really what to do. But that was what we had to do. And in Florida, like we were just getting used to like playing with each other and still learning a ton. So I think we went like 2-7 in Florida or something like that. So it was not great. And it was rough. And we really came back to Vermont like not knowing like, are we as good as what we think we are? Like our skills are there. There's no doubt about it. The talent's there. It's like, were we gonna? I remember that. I remember you like messaging or saying something about that in the meeting too. But it was like one of those things where that's what we were learning. And so we got back in conference was first weekend, and Hamilton, who we played, ended up being the person we played in the championship as well. And we won that first game big. Offense did a great job, and then we came back and lost that second game, and we were like, okay, interesting. Like, we definitely played better, but didn't get 2 wins. And then right there, then we went on a what was that? I think a 14 game win streak.
Oh my God!
So Harter did something very college baseball. I'm looking at you guys to go 2-0, and then then you lose a couple straight. You end up like 4-4, and Harter this is like a Sunday afternoon, quote or retweets an account where he quotes Marcus Aurelius, which is about like his as like coachy as you can possibly be. So I immediately text one of our coworkers, Jeremy, who you're actually staying on his couch. I'm like, Harter doing okay? Like, he just quoted Marcus Aurelius, and yeah, then you guys played a little better.
Yeah, a
so
little bit.
you know
we got
you're
it going.
you know you're in
Motivation,
trouble
maybe.
if you're sending out philosophers or quoting like Drake lyrics or something. You've hit a bit of a rough patch.
Yeah. It was definitely tough. I think it was tough for me because like I was still trying to like figure out what needed to be done as well. It's like you're with the whole new staff with guys that you've been with for roughly 2 months, and you're like, how do I best approach this? And I know to firmly, but like to be honest with you, I don't think I still approached it the best way. And got pretty fired up, probably a lot more than I should have. And I think some guys like handled that well, and I think some guys like maybe didn't. But I think that was what's so great about it is that's why the players were so important. Is like they never lost hope. They never lost like faith that they were really good, and I still believed it too. In a matter of fact, I told the coaches for the season, I said we're hitting 50 home runs as a team, and our coaching staff, my coaching staff, like looked at me, were like, you're crazy, like that's not happening. And then you end up with what I was like 65 or something like that. But those are the things. It's like you just like continue, like those players just continued on that road of like we are good, we can do this, like, and then we got the conference and we just, I mean, we never looked behind us.
Is there anything you guys changed or any like different approach you used, or is it mostly just about execution and like just staying confident?
So I think it was just more like the coach like Leonard does a great job of just like rallying the troops and like keeping the guys' confidence and keeping positivity in the dugout, which is very tough to do when you're hitting some rough patches. And that's what he did such a great job of, and that's what I learned so much from him as well is the positivity helped a ton more than going and just screaming someone's face the entire time because maybe you're losing a few games. He realized that it was Florida. We definitely made a lot of mistakes, but we needed to do that. Like we needed those mistakes so that we could learn who was going to be on that field every day and who was going to be our guys when it came down to conference play, and then when it came down to the end of the year at the conference tournament in the regional. So.
Gotcha. That's a good way to put it with your like spring training. Especially if you didn't get a lot of lead up. You guys have not weird, but different fall rules as well, right? So it's not just the winter that you guys are a little limited.
Yeah. So this past fall was a pretty like normal like NCAA, any other like school in the country, like in terms of NCAA, where they got 4 weeks of practice. 1 week was when Driveline came and stuff and did the assessments. However, that was because of COVID. In terms of like normal NESCAC rules, which will go back into play this 2022 fall, is there is no coaches whatsoever that can practice with the players
in the entire fall.
Yes, so it'll be all captains practices, captain-led practices, those type of things. Okay. Which is what makes these players so much more unique and interesting is the motivation, the drive to get better and do things day in and day out. I mean, we have like our cages. I mean, every time I walk by our cages, I mean, there's guys always there, always there. There's guys always doing stuff, always trying to get better, trying to do their thing, and that goes on top of like doing all the school stuff. And then that's what's so impressive about it, and what's so awesome being around them. It's so easy to coach them because like they want to do this stuff. There's no question about it, and that's what's so awesome about it.
Do you have like based on your experience with limited lead time going into the season this year, do you guys have a plan for how you're going to approach that in the fall? Like, did it change how you like thought about fall training?
Not necessarily. I mean, I think what's nice about it is you have like a ton of guys that have like actually like trained out here before, which is good for like in terms of like knowing how to train, and that helps the younger guys that maybe haven't had that experience just yet. And so with using track, which we'll use again this year, like we can give them programming. It's just all like led by them, and they can get their stuff done. I'm very confident that they'll all get their routines done, their daily stuff done, and that's what I'm excited about. Is like I don't think anything really changes. Do I wish I was there? Absolutely,
for sure.
But obviously I can't be, so I'm gonna do my best to get them the best training they possibly can, and make sure that we're even better than what we were this past year. So I don't think anything changes whatsoever.
Seems like that's a good. I don't think this gets enough, or this is talked about enough, really, in the grand scheme of the things that polls can be valuable for. But I feel like that could be good tool for you guys
Absolutely.
to get. So you're not only just giving plans like with track or however it would be, but like you would get some feedback about their throwing, like if it's executed correctly, if it looks like maybe they're dragging a little bit or whatever.
Yeah, I think, and that's what's nice about it is like and when these guys like buy into something like Pulse, which we had quite a few guys like this year do, it's one of those things where, I mean, I obviously can check it if I want, but in reality, those guys now have an understanding of like what they need to kind of be at. So it's almost one of those things where, again, they're becoming their own best coach, and they have an idea that like if they have a day where it's a recovery day and they just completely blow it out of the water, like they know that. But if they've already learned it, they're not going to do that. So then I don't even have to worry about it anymore, and nor do they. They can just like make sure they're doing everything correctly and just keep track of themselves. And that's what's awesome about it. It's like, not that I'm not going to do anything, but it's more the fact of having them also be the person that's keeping themselves in check.
Yeah.
Helps a lot more than me having to babysit the entire time.
Like an education process.
Yes. Education is definitely the biggest thing when it comes to like a college staff, when you can have like similar terms to use between like the team, and also just be able to like learn and use those skills and that information and understand entirely like what we're trying to get done. It goes a long way.
Specifically on the pulse side of things, did you guys, what was the, like, what numbers did you look at for like guidelines, or how did you use the feedback? Was it like 1 day workload, throw count?
Yeah, I use it mostly from the workload, kind of like way for now, like in terms of like that's the number I was looking at the most. It's just like workload. I just like didn't dive a ton into arm speed just yet. That's something I'm going to do this next year for in terms of keeping in check like intensity and things like that. But workload was what I was more worried about, just because I was trying to like build up over time in my short period that I had to like get them ready. So was more worried about that. Kind of just like checking that out daily. So if they have a recovery, they usually had a pretty good like range of where they needed to be at, maybe like a 3 to 5 or a 5 to 7, somewhere in that range.
5 to 7 1 day workload.
Yep. 1 day workload there. So that's kind of where I looked at. If it was like a hybrid B or recovery plus or something like that, it just kind of depended on like where their AC ratio was at that time, to kind of go off of that. I think the one big thing that I learned from Pulse and learned from this past season, from not just from what I saw, but also feedback from the players, I think we can throw more. And that's the biggest thing that I'm going to definitely try to do a better job of, is like throwing more. Because if we could throw more, it means we can develop more as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the sensor can definitely help with as well. I don't think we did as much as we could have, which makes it even better that we can do that. Funny enough. Good old Alec Rich calling me, right?
Let's go.
Yeah.
He knows.
He knows.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what's nice about it. So like being able to use that information, it's not just for the fact of like keeping your guys in check, but like if I'm sitting here telling myself that like, damn, we could have thrown more and could have maybe got guys even better or throwing harder. Like that's what I'm excited about. It's like, now I have this feedback even more and know that I can do more. That makes me even more excited for what we can do this next fall.
Yeah, for sure. And you could have some like clear, like literal goals for we can get, last year we did this. Like I have a record of this is where we got to last year in like terms of workload. Next year, like, and we think we can push it a little bit. So next year, let's try like going to this and have like an explicit goal. Do you think this, Anthony just tweeted about it yesterday and he DM'd me on Twitter because Keith Law keeps like tweeting about
of course he does.
like every time somebody has a short rest appearance or something, he'll tweet about how like college programs are ruining kids' arms. They're not thinking about anything. He's like stuck on these like pitch count heuristics, which we've talked a ton about, like are valuable for in like, I don't know, a pretty generic time frame, but there's also a lot of ways that it's just like super limited. Do you think that, especially going into the postseason, like at the end of the season when it's coming to crunch time, you need like, you know, people might be fatigued, might be going more innings or whatever. Like, were you able to use any workload feedback or any of the feedback that you got previously in the season to like be more confident in putting somebody out on on the field?
Yeah, absolutely. No, like basically the buildup was towards the end of the year in the playoffs and throwing my back size. So, at the last game of the regional, we played the number 1 team, Eastern Connecticut State, who is currently, I think, leading in the D3 championship game right now. So we decided to just throw the top dogs. Our starter had started that Friday, so he was coming back day in between throwing Sunday. So we started him through 2 innings. Had another starter that started on Saturday, threw a couple innings. And those guys did that because we built them up. And that was the whole goal. I kept telling them that, like, my goal is we want to use you multiple times in the weekend when it comes to playoff time, conference tournament time, regional time. Like, that's the time, because I was trying to throw the best guys as much as possible. And, I mean, we took them down all the way down to the wire. We were up 4-2 going into the 9th inning. And obviously they hit a walk-off and we're not playing. But, I mean, we got to say we threw everything we had at them. And that's the whole reason behind all of it. And we did it in a way that, like, we knew we were comfortable with. I think you and I, like the thing that I also look at is, like, workload is so much better because, like, if you look at it this way, like, we were in Florida. So the weekend before we went to Florida, we were in New York, 35, 40 degrees, cold. I had guys wear pulse, everything like that. Starting pitcher threw with it before game. One day, or the workload was like 18 by the time he was done with, like, his pregame bullpen and everything. We go to Florida a week later. That same guy had like a 12 workload after he was done with his pregame bullpen. And that's something to keep in mind. It's like weather plays a part.
Yeah.
Like, you're throwing less. Like,
yeah, like you don't have to warm up as much.
You don't have to warm up as much. So you're not doing as much. And then if a guy is, like, coming back on short rest, maybe he just doesn't do as much of a warm up. You don't know that. And, like, the Campbell guy is a great example, which I think this first kind of got brought up with. Like, the guy threw like 100 pitches and then the next day came out and did the same thing. Like, we don't know what his warm up was.
Yeah.
It could have been pretty short. Like, his pitching coach, which that Campbell staff's good. So I got to imagine, like, told him, like, hey, keep it pretty light.
Yeah.
Like, do what you need to do. And then, like, basically the kid threw 7 pitches. So it wasn't like he was blowing it out and threw another 100.
Yeah.
Like, he threw 7 pitches. Like, they probably weren't going to throw him 5 innings. So those are things like that, like, if he wore a sensor, like, I'm going to guarantee his coaches were doing the correct way of where, yes, he built up the entire season. Like, he threw every single weekend and threw bullpens during the week.
Yeah.
Threw bullpens during the week just to build up over time, so that when he got to that time at the end of the season, like, it wasn't gonna, like, do anything bad. Like, his arm was ready for that. His arm was prepared to do that, and that's what I was trying to do with my guys, and that's what we did. Those guys want to compete.
Yeah.
Like, you can't stop competitors from competing.
Yeah.
And honestly, you're doing them a disservice if you're not getting them ready to do that. And that's one way to do that. Those guys want to do things like that. But it's your job to make sure they can do it and nothing bad happens.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's the whole point of the coaching job. Now, if a coach does it wrong, like that sure, like that should be a question. However, there is ways to do it and still be okay at the end of the day. Like, that kid is going to still play, and he's going to still play at a very high level of baseball. And he is probably so happy that he threw in that game and did everything he could to make, help his team win. And that's what it's all about at the end of the day. Is about the team and obviously keeping the athlete healthy. But if you do everything correctly, you can do both. You really can.
Yeah, for sure. That makes sense. Because, like, it's probably not very often the player, like, I don't know, coach, but the coach is like, you got to get out there. We, like, need you. Like, you have to throw for us. It's, like, probably typically the opposite, right?
Yeah.
The player wants to go out there. You got to make sure that you feel comfortable, like, putting them in a position where they might get injured or they might not perform as well or whatever.
Yeah. I think the Stanford coach said it last night in his game. He said, I think he had a starter that was from yesterday or something. Was like, hey, coach, I'm good. I'm good. I'm ready to go. And the Stanford coach knew, like that may be pushing it a little bit too much. But he did throw other guys that had thrown already that weekend in the regional. So, like, he was comfortable doing it. It's just like you do have to make a decision. Like, if you don't think a guy's ready, like, don't do it. Yeah. But that coaching staff trusted that their program worked and did our thing, and the same thing with mine. And if you're throwing your best guys at the most, like, as much as you can, like, you're gonna give yourself a pretty good chance of winning. Yeah. Like, that's just the reality of it. So.
Fuck yeah. We should probably wrap. Do you guys have any last, like, thoughts or questions?
What do you want to get out of this summer with working here, living in Seattle?
Absolutely. Well, first off, I want to enjoy the summer out here.
Yeah.
It's nice and sunny this morning. I saw Mount Rainier. It was nice. Reality, I'm trying to like push my knowledge even more on the side of just like how I can better train athletes this next fall. Also like a little bit of pitch design stuff, the strength side of things, and then on top of that, just continue to learn things like pulse and track and how I can better utilize it going into this fall and this spring. I think that's my number one goal is just trying to do all that stuff. I'll be doing some stuff for Middlebury too, like in terms of recruiting things, which
Nice.
I need to learn as a coach as well. So it's going to be good that I'm going to have the opportunity to do that out here on the weekends. But overall, it's just trying to, it's just like the fire hydrant thing, just taking as much information as possible again.
Yeah.
Which is the best place in the world to do that is here. So
You're working half on the pitching floor? Are you gonna be working with assessments, or are you gonna also be training?
I'll be training athletes too.
Let's go, dude.
Yeah. So I'll be training athletes, programming, doing all that stuff, and then it'll be 50-50. So I'll do half that, other half like sales support, that type of stuff. So it's a good gig. You know, I love talking to the coaches and figuring out how like what tools Driveline has that can best help them, because I mean I do it every day. And I love to like share that information and see if there's anything that can help them as well. And then on top of that, like obviously helping athletes is like the passion. So I'm super excited to be doing that this summer.
That's awesome. Don't forget about us little people, dude.
Yeah, whatever.
When you make it.
You're still like technically my pulse manager. So I think I still got to be under you there.
All right. Episode 85. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week. This is probably going to go out Monday. Sorry for no episode last week. Some traveling conflicts we weren't able to work through, but yeah. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.